We're so happy to welcome to the show today Chef Kevin Gillespie, former contestant on Top Chef and author of Pure Pork Awesomeness, Totally Cookable Recipes from Around the World. Thank you so much for being with us today, Chef Kevin.
You're very welcome. I'm excited to be here.
So tell me how you got started out cooking. What's your story with that?
So I grew up in a big family where none of the, I guess, my parents' age people cooked. We all lived around my grandparents. My grandmother lived at sort of the top of the street, and then all of her children built homes around it. And so we went to my grandmother's house every single day for 3 meals a day. And so I just watched her cook. And as a little kid, I think I thought that because she was the one who made everybody's food, that was why everyone listened to her and did what she told them to do. And I think I just was a bossy kid and was like, well, I like that. I want to be in charge, so I guess I need to learn how to cook. And so that was sort of my segue into it. I convinced her to let me, I guess, as it were, sort of watch her and help her, and slowly but surely fell in love with it.
That's awesome. You found power in knowing how to cook, which there's a lot to be said about that. What was it like being on Top Chef?
Ooh, it's tough, but it's tough for reasons that most people don't suspect. The cooking part is not that hard, I think, in my opinion, but there's a lot of mental challenges to being on Top Chef. You film 7 days a week for 7 weeks, and it's a grind, and you don't get a lot of sleep. You can't really talk to your family. You certainly can't, just sort of hang out with your friends. You're basically stuck inside this competition 24 hours a day for a while, and it starts to become very taxing. And so it's hard to stay mentally fresh, I guess is the way to say it.
Well, and so you're Catholic. How does your faith play into that in a time like that, but then just in general?
It was actually very helpful in that scenario because I made it a point to sort of have a separation and a moment of, I guess, silence and clarity every morning where I just sort of had my time alone to my thoughts and to connect spiritually. I think it was a very clarifying experience for me to do it that way. There was also another component to it that's very difficult to explain, but I think most Catholics will understand this idea that this believing that you were born with an inherent talent and it's your obligation to do the best you can with that. And so that feeling always carried you, even on the days when it was really tough and you sort of wanted to give up and it would have just been easier to go home. You felt this desire and this drive because it was bigger than you.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I always refer to it as the gifts that God has given us, and how do we use them, for His glory, which might be as simple as just doing the stuff that He made us good at. All right, so speaking to someone who's good at cooking, I am not good at it. It does not come naturally, even though I have 6 kids. What is an easy meal that you can tell me to help? 5 of my kids are boys, and they love it when I cook, but it's hard sometimes. What's something that's easy, but it, packs a nice little punch?
Well, what I like to tell folks is that cooking can kind of come in a lot of different stages. And I think people get really scared of this idea of having to make everything themselves from scratch. And it's challenging. If you're not a great cook or if you don't have a ton of time, that's a really difficult way to approach cooking at home. One of the things that I like to sort of suggest to people is there are ways to take maybe shortcuts, for lack of a better term, that still produce a really great meal. An example would be, rather than having to learn how to roast a chicken, you could go buy a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store and then work on making the side dishes. Rather than having to learn how to make every single step yourself, there's a lot of ways to kind of incorporate things that make it a little bit easier. I think a really simple go-to dish that someone can make at home is something that you can put in an oven and just sort of let bake. I think letting those flavors stack on top of each other rather than dirtying up the whole kitchen. So something like we do this old school Southern dish that my grandmother taught me where we take chicken and we cook it with sweet onions and raisins and sherry wine in one pan along with some diced up potatoes and carrots. And it kind of comes out like a mix between a roasted chicken and a braised chicken. And you literally layer everything together, pop it in the oven. It cooks until the chicken's tender. You pull the lid off and it gets nice and golden brown. And so very, very simple. I think things like that, ease your way into it. Don't start with the world's most complicated recipe.
Yeah, excellent advice. Okay, and along that same line, hospitality, because that can be intimidating sometimes. I'm always quick to think that I don't want to have people into my home if it's not perfect. What are some tips on hospitality and cooking and how to make it, how to make people feel welcome in your home with the food that you serve them?
Well, I think that one of the things I've learned is that people love to come into your home and dine. And I know a lot of people say, well, yeah, that's because you're a professional chef. They expect to eat well. But I think across the board, that idea of welcoming someone into your home, I know that certainly is one of the motivating factors for why we have restaurants, is that we feel like it's an extension of our home. So the thing that seems to make people feel the most welcome is not walking into a perfect house where everything is exactly in place and then you sit down, but rather doing something where you're doing it together. One of the things that I do with my friends that I think helps to cut down the intimidation factor is making something together. And so one of the ones that we've done recently is, I guess, a spin on your like teenage pizza party. And so I'll make the pizza dough and I'll make the pizza sauce and I'll get all the toppings together. So I'll do all the hard stuff. But when people come in, we actually stretch the pizza together. We top it. We put whatever someone wants on it. We bake it together. And so I think that adds some connectivity to it. So anytime you can invite them into your kitchen as well as your home, I think that it helps break the ice a lot.
I love that. That's great advice. All right, where can people find out more about you? And tell me what you have going on right now.
So we're really busy right now in Atlanta. We have 3 full-service restaurants here. So we have Gun Show, Revival, and Communion are my 3 full-service restaurants. We have a 4th one called Game Changer that opens August 24th in the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium where the Atlanta Falcons are playing. We're very excited about that. And then we have 3 more on the way for next year that we haven't quite told the world about. But if folks are interested, they can always follow me on social media. It's Chef Kevin Gillespie on Facebook and on Instagram, Top Chef Kevin on Twitter. And then check out our websites, which are redbeardrestaurants.com. And you can see all the fun happenings and goings on.
I love it. Thank you so much for being with us today, Chef Kevin, and good luck to you with all you got going on.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, we'll be right back with more of The Gist. Stay tuned.